Namaskar. Good evening and a very warm welcome to you from Team Hingori Sutras. In this session of In Conversation, let's understand the basics of Upanishads. The question often asked, who am I, keeps us all confused. The sages have tried to help us understand by shifting the focus from Brahman to an individual human being. We have minds which cause us to think, we have hearts which cause us to feel. But this did not seem to explain what made a human being a human being. The sage's solution was the recognition of a higher self within the self, the Atma, which is actually a part of Brahman each individual carries within. The soul and the mind of an individual cannot grasp Brahman intellectually or emotionally, but the Atman can do both because the Atman is the Brahman. Everyone carries a spark of the divine within them, and one's goal in life is to reunite that spark with the source from which it has come. These concepts are explored throughout the Upanishads. The Upanishads were not created to provide answers, but to provoke questions. And we could not think of anyone better than Shri Raji Sharma ji to get answers for these questions. Raji Sharma ji needs no introduction. His knowledge of the ancient texts is not just theoretical, but in fact, it is solidly backed by being experiential. आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है राजी जी. A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Anjali ji.
And I'm going to start off with the most basic question, Raji ji. What are Upanishads? And why is their Gyan important to understand?
To understand Upanishads, we must first understand what the word Upanishad really means. So if you were to do the Sandhi Vichhed of Upanishad, it means Up, Ni, and Shad, which basically meaning Up you have to define, Ni you have to define, and Shad you have to define. Up in Sanskrit means below. It means close, very near. Ni means below or down. And Shad means to sit. So basically the word means Up, Ni, Shad. That is close, below, sit. Now, why is it this so? These are actually discourses between a guru and a disciple. And a very close, special bond is created by when you're close to somebody. Even two human beings, when they're close, there's certain closeness bond that starts to build up. In this case, especially with the guru, it's the aura of the guru that really comes very close to you. And you start to getting that, inheriting, absorbing that aura of the guru. So that is why it says close. But why below? Below is actually a mark of respect, of reverence. That when you go to seek some advice, or you want to seek some gyan, what do? You go with your hands folded and bow down. So here is the situation where the disciple is coming to the guru with his head bowed down, and below he's sitting, and below he's bowing below. But why sit? He can stand. For a human, there are three basic postures. One posture is standing. The other posture is lying down. The third is sitting. When you're in a posture of standing, if the Guru is sitting, then you are actually over the head of the Guru. And you cannot keep on standing for a long time. Let's say if the Guru was to give you his discourse for a longer period of time, then you start to get fidgety. So standing up erect is not the correct preferred mode of stance to be taken while getting gyan. The other is lying down. So what happens when you lie down? A, it's disrespectful. B, you tend, because you're so relaxed, you can tend to sleep. And when you sleep, what has happened? You've missed out the discourse of the Guru. So the important thing is to keep your spine straight in a relaxed format. And the best relaxed format is the format of sitting down, and that also in Padmasana or Sukhasana or whatever the asana that one would be, feels comfortable with. So this is basically why you sit down below. Sitting below means you're with reverence close to the Guru and hearing what he's saying. Because most of these earlier times, it's not like Zoom today, so many people are hearing, seeing, talking, and it's being, you can play it over again and again. At that time, the Gyan was only by Shruti, by Shravan. Shravan means to hear. So it was to be heard. There were no loudspeakers. There were no mics. So they had to be closed. So it served a lot of purposes. The purpose of being close to the Guru, hearing his Gyan from verbatim from his mouth. That's why they used to say, the Guru Gyana, the work of the Guru, is the mantra itself. But you must remember that most of these, there's a certain way that all these Upanishads actually begin. They begin with the Shanti part. Now there are several Shanti parts, and I'd like to tell you one or two, three of them, which is found in most of the Upanishads. One is it's an invocation to the Lord that here, me, my shish, together we are praying. And what is that? It says, Om Sahanavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahavirim Karvavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavadeshavahe. Literally meaning that both of us say together, we pray to you. That give us that knowledge, give us that energy, that viryam, togetherness. And we pray that you grant us this without any dvesh, meaning without any disturbance to each other, without any conflict with each other. So that used to be one starting, so you see the beauty, see the pureness of the Guru and the Shishya, where they sit down together and they pray.
Ji, I believe there are several hundreds of the Upanishads written. What is the difference amongst them?
There may be many, but over a period of time, they've described it in different manner. But the unity of all the Upanishads is only one. Upanishads are trying to explain to you who I am, basically. Who I am, where did I come from? What am I doing here? That is the Gyan that you used to get. But basically it was, who am I? This is in which they try to explain the real nature of the Atman or of the Brahman. The Atman and Brahman are considered to be the same. Attributeless. So all of them actually say the same thing. And the Brahman, not by intuition, not by reasoning, but it's like it's a thundering statement, not a statement. I would say it's a declaration of that Brahman is Brahman, and that Brahman is I am, or is you, Tattvam, or Aham Brahman. So it is a declaration that the Guru gives the Shishya, and then he explains how it is. So
Are you saying all the Upanishads say the same thing?
They all
Or
converge
lead
into
to the same thing?
they all converge into the same thing.
Right.
See, it's different times of the centuries, different guru shishya, but they all mean the same thing. They all come to that oneness of that whatever exists, that tat sat or sat.
Gee, then what is the correlation between the Upanishads and Vedanta?
You see, Vedanta is people talk about Vedanta as what is called the end of the Vedas. Ved, Anta. Ved means jnana, knowledge, and Ant means the end. It really doesn't mean that the knowledge has ended. It really means that all the essence of the Vedas has been combined together as a nectar. And that nectar is what is the essence of all the Vedas combined into one. Now, Vedanta is actually, it's a very, Vedanta has various schools of thoughts or philosophies. And you can take what is called the Nyaya school, which is based on Praman, justice, law, rules, methods. So that is one part of the whole Vedantic philosophy or the Hindu philosophy. The other is Vaisheshika. So Vaisheshika means perception and inference. The perception and inference, you can also talk, is what the Buddhists also practice. Then it's the Sankhya philosophy. The Sankhya means the duality. In the Sankhya philosophy, they say there are two. There is the Brahman or the Purusha, which is the pure consciousness, and there is matter. So both of them exist. They might meet up, but both of them exist independently of each other. Then we have another philosophy which is called we call yoga. What does yoga means? That all that you talk about is actually a combination of three: the mind, body, and the soul. And how you join them together, that is what is called yoga. Yoga, that means enjoining. So how do you enjoin all this? Then there is what is called the mimamsa, or the Purva Mimamsa, the philosophy of the Karma Kandi, the Karma Kandi Vedas. Then there is the Uttara Mimamsa, which basically Upanishads fall into that kind of Vedanta, where this is the studies of the Vedas which reveal the Brahman, or which has got a reflection, or you can call it the Brahman Mimamsa. So this really what it means. These are the basic four categories, or I would say four schools of Vedanta. And then you can also you can bifurcate and say it's Advaita, Dvaita, Vashisha Dvaita. So then there are different schools of thoughts. But basically, Vedanta means this.
See, then, for simplifying sake.
Sorry, come again.
For the sake of simplification, could you explain what are Vedas and what is the difference between
What are the difference between
the Vedas and the Vedanta and Upanishads? So
okay, right.
why do we move from Veds to Vedanta to Upanishads?
Okay. You see, to understand Vedas, first let's say there are four Vedas that we have: the Rig, the Sam,
Right.
the Yajur, and the Atharva. All these talk about different aspects, but most of the Rig, most of them have quite a percentage of Rig Veda in them. Of course, it was compiled by Rishi Vyas. That's why it's called Ved Vyas. The, the problem here is, to understand the Vedas, you first have to understand the vision of the rishis. Actually, in some context, we call that there are five Vedas. The Puran and Itihas, that's history, is also combined in one to be named as a lower Veda, but because that gives you the knowledge of the past and the other just stories or events that might have happened to be put together. So you have to see it from the Rishi's point of view. That is what the Vedas is. Its vision is how they perceived, how they were able to see the creation from behind, prior to creation. How they were able to get I would say the sukshmata, the subtleness of creation, of the various elements. And most of the Vedas are nothing but it's their prayers. The hymns are of praises. It's only praise, praise, praise. Praise of what? Whom? Praise of the entire the universe that exists, starting from a little piece of wood, the aranya, or what which they put it in the havi, into the vedi of the of yagna. The cart that brings it to the vedi, to that extent, and it was only pure prayer, pure invocations, because they understood the essence, the subtleties of each that existed and how they would be together. It's not that they sought the individuality of everything as well as the duality or the insight in them. Vedas are basically, you'd say, they cover from phenomenal to nominal to the metaphysical, spiritual. You want to name it, anything. Everything is covered in them. Irrefutable statements. But how? When before, what does before creation mean? When there was no creation, it starts with, oh, there was nothingness. So how could they get to know from nothingness to arrive what it is today? That was their vision.
Okay.
The getting into the tan matras of it, getting into the from let's say, people say there's nothingness, but from nothingness they were able to come out that it's not nothingness, something has come out from this nothingness. So they actually viewed their knowledge, their vision was behind nothingness. We can discuss that later at some other time. How you can view nothingness, but that is the great knowledge of the rishis.
Right. Now, so with the knowledge of the rishis, if we can come back to the Upanishads, could you please explain 4 great statements of the Upanishads? Any 4 great statements?
Upanishad, now Upanishad's got so many statements. The statements are actually, each Upanishad has its own different character. a different statement, meaning the same thing though. But most of the four most important ones that are, which are prevalent these days, is the says Tat Tvamasi, that thou art. Famous statement, in thundering statement in Chandogya Upanishad. This is Rishi Udalka giving knowledge to his son Shwetaketu, who comes after reading long many years of Vedas, and he comes to ask him. And then he tells him, he said, do you know what it is? Do you know what Brahman is? So then he explains him that Tat, that is the same as you. Tat Tvamasi. Then also the other, first, you asked me about four, so first let me tell you the four, and then there are several others which I think are also very important because some of the lesser Upanishads are, which I have read and I really admire and have great respect for them. The other one is Aham Brahmasi. I am that Brahman. Now, which I? That is the I that, you have to first realize which is the I. But the ultimate statement is he's saying, I am Brahman. Tattvam is one statement. Aham Brahman or Aham Brahmasi. The very famous statement in Bhradaranika. Another one which is, it itself says that I am Aham Atma Brahman. I am Atma Brahman. That this Atma is Brahman. Aham Brahman. That ahamness is, you must understand the difference between aham and this Atma. This Atma you can say is etad. But aham means you've qualified the aham. Which is that aham? Aham means an ego. So is it the ego of the human being that is there? The perceived ego? The ego of the body? The ego that it associates itself with the outer world or the worldly existence? Or is the ego that lies within? The true ego. So the one that is outside, which is perceives all and calls itself the ego, or I am associates itself, is actually the non-ego. The real ego is the one that doesn't perceive others. It says, I am. There's nothing else but I am. Then, of course, there is that in Upanishad, there's that the other fourth one is which is called Prajnanamate Brahman, which means I am that pure consciousness. Prajnanam. Aham. Iti. Brahman. That pure consciousness, the Prajnanam, is Brahman. And I am that Brahman. I like, there are a lot of other, Anjali, great statements of Upanishads, which I think I'd like to share with you, which are really, really very important.
Sure.
A great one that I like is of Mandukya Upanishad. Mandukya Upanishad is a great Upanishad describing the true nature of Om and how Om is Brahman. So in this, he also says, Sarvam hi etad Brahman. Or let me. It's a little bit in Sanskrit, but I'll kind of it'll be very interesting for you to hear. It says, Om iti edad aksharam idam sarvam tasya pravyakhanam bhutam bhavat bhavashaditi sarvam omkare yach anatrikalaatitam tadapi omkare sarvam hi etad brahm aham atma brahm soham atma chatushpat. So I'm not going to explain the whole thing, but basically means Om iti edad aksharam. This is that akshar, which is beyond everything, all the three states, beyond all the three, beyond the three time, even then it is Om. Sarvam hi etad Brahman. All that you see, there's nothing that is not Brahman. Which one? Aham Atma Brahman. This one that you see is Brahman. That Atma that you're seeing here is Brahman. Aham Atma Brahman. So Ham Atma Chatusha. That one that you see is also Brahman. And this has got four conditions. And then, of course, he goes on to describe the four conditions of of existence, or when you say the Turya state. But other ones that are also very, very important, which one of my favorite Upanishads. Apart from these, there are over 100 some Upanishads, maybe more, but 11 or 12. I have extensively read 17 of them, very extensively, and by my guru's grace, I've had the opportunity to meditate on them. The one that I really like, which is a lesser one, is called the Kaivalya Upanishad. There are three or four statements in it which I would like to, say, which they're very beautiful.
Would love to.
Tattvam Tvameva tat. This is that you are. So there's one statement, Tattvamasi, Tattvameva. And Tvam Eva Tat. That one, so you are that and that is you. And I remember my Guruji used to tell me, Buddha, मैं ही तू हूँ, तू ही मैं हूँ. So this is the great statement of the Kaivalya Upanishad. And he used to say it so casually, मैं ही तू हूँ, तू ही मैं हूँ. The other one that I really see, it has, there's so much of Advam Asi. So beautiful. It says Tat, that Brahman. Tat Brahm Advam Asmi Aham. That the non-dual am I. Asmi Aham. So that non-dual Brahman that you see, whether which actually also goes to the I would say the Vashishta Vedanta and Advaita, saying what is perceived as two is not really two. They are the same, but they look like two. But I, that Brahman, is the non-dual one. Advam. Not Advam means not the dvam, not the two, not the do, Advam. And then they also great statement. It says, Aham Brahmasmi. It says, Aham. That I am what I am. I think thundering statements, not declarations. So that is the Gyan of the Upanishads. For instance, they also, in Chandogya, they also say the Ekam eve idvam Brahman Ekam evam Advitam Brahman. That is one without a second. Is Aham, is me. Look at the statement also in Katho. It says, Etad avitat. This verily is Brahman. This is Brahman. And Manduk Upanishad saying, Om iti edat aksharam idam sarvam tasya vyakyanam. Om iti edat, this is that. Om iti, this edat, this is that. Akshar. This is all manifested. So I would say the when you talk about the four great statements, several of them, it all depends on the school of thought who wants to take it one or two or three or whatever. But to me,
like they say, all roads lead to Rome.
Yes, correct. So they are, see what is happening in the Upanishads. They are not trying to explain. They are first making they're making a declaration. And then they're telling you that, listen, what I'm telling you, it's you.
In fact, while you were explaining, you did mention the three states. So what is meant by transcending the three states?
As I told you, I think the best explanation for this, it's in most of the Upanishads, they talk about the three states and the state of Turya, or transcending the state of Turya. Transcending the three states. The three states is the waking state, Jagarit Sthana, Bahish Pragna, which means when you're Jagrat means waking state. Bahish Pragna, what are you doing? You're looking outside. You're seeing outside world. And what are you doing? You're enjoying your bhogoing. Bhogva Vaishvanara Pratham Pada. So you are enjoying the waking state, or whatever is gross. So what you see outside is gross matter. So that is the first state. Now, whether it's the first state or the third one, we'll just come to it. You can, it's like an hourglass. You can put it either way. It means the same thing. The other is the state of dreaming. So there is one state where there's an activity you're consciously watching the gross matter with all your senses and the body. There is another state of this consciousness, which is there is an activity. It's called the Tejas state or the dreaming state. There is activity happening, but it is a very consciousness is at an unconscious level. It's whatever it thinks it's happening, it happens, it doesn't happen. So you're dreaming. The third state is a state of deep sleep, where there is neither the waking state nor the dream state, but the deep sleep, but there's nothing. Now here's the beautiful part. In all these three states, what is happening? All of them are the unreal states. Unreal state in relation to what? In relation to the Atman. In the waking state, you're not aware of your sleep. In the waking state, you're not aware of your dream. You may try to recollect your dream, but hey, what are you doing? You're dreaming in the waking state of a dream, trying to revive it. That is what happens in the waking state. Now, when there's a deep, and let me first explain this to you, because then it will become very clear to you that and the meaning of Turya, or the fourth state. Turya means fourth. So what is happening? In those two states of activity, the activity of the consciousness in the waking state, something is happening. You're involved. There's action taking place. There's an action that's taking outside that you're doing, and there's action taking place. Closed eyes. So in both these two cases, there is a misapprehension. When in a dream state, you cannot recollect your waking state, and you cannot say, I'm in a dream state, let me go back to that house, or let me go and see that cinema hall, go that movie to PVR or wherever it is. Let me go to the restaurant and eat. But you may go find yourself doing something which is absolutely incoherent. So these two states are misapprehensive states. So then what is happening in the third state? It's a no apprehension. It's neither waking, nor dreaming. It's nothing. So all these states, whoever is there is an experiencer of these states. So that experiencer is called the bhokta. Or let's say experiencer, I, the ego that is experiencing it. The one who's the experiencer is experiencing one thing at a time. He's not dreaming. And once he's the waking state, but it's the same experience. That is what happens in that state of non-apprehensiveness, non-apprehension. There is somebody who wakes up and says, it was me. So you actually experience that state of no sleep, but later on that, and you get up and say, oh, I had a good sleep. But you don't know about that sleep. So there is an experience here. But who is experiencing this? Someone. But there are three different experiences. Now, the one that who is not really experiencing but witnessing is that one. That state of witnessing is the state of turra. But remember, the state of experiencing and witnessing is the same. Is the same one, but viewed differently. The experience and the witnesser has to be the same. Now, the one that is witnessing, and once that they say, that thou art, you are, so you are that Brahman. So the Brahman is a continuous dream. The dream is limited by time. So the waking, the dream, and the deep sleep one is limited by time. And the dreamer actually cannot go beyond the dream, limited by space, so it is illusionary. But the one who wakes up is in that waking state is the only time that you can find out and experience one state and know about that, oh, there was one, and bring it down to something very small, and come back to the atomic level. And that is very well explained in the Mandukya Upanishad. And he says that he describes Om as Brahman. When the state of transcending the state of the transcending the three states is transcending like this, transcending to this state of constant awareness or a witnessing. Now look at it this way. There is an experiencer who's experiencing these three states. But there is somebody who's witnessing that experiencer experience the three states. Now a question arises. This witnesser is also being witnesser. Otherwise, how can he know that he is witnessing? So then the witnesser is becoming the experiencer. So this is then what happens. Then a chain regression starts to build up, diluting itself slowly and slowly. So when the witnesser experience is gone, that is, there's an experiencer, there's a witnesser. Then there's a witnesser of the witnesser. And there's a witnesser of the witnesser. So that at one time the witnesser is becoming the experiencer, and then the witnesser of that witnesser is becoming the witnesser, and that witnesser has become the experiencer. So once you go into that perpetual state, and that gets so diluted that when the witnesser alone remains, when there is no more witnessing, when the witnesser himself is gone, into that minute, what do you want to call as nothingness? But he's gone into his own minuteness. And hence, the witnesser has witnessed itself from the waking state, from the state of Brahman to the state of nothingness. Because you cannot describe nothingness till such time you've not seen nothingness. How can you say it is nothingness? How can you say it's deep sleep? So nothingness and deep sleep are also the same thing. So the great yogis, in that state of nothingness, they also say, oh, this is also the same state of nothingness as is in deep sleep. But what is the difference then? The difference is when that consciousness, conscious of itself, without the regression of an experiencer or a witnesser, rests itself in complete restful state. That state is called the state of Kaivalya, or also the state of Vishnu, which is both Rajas Sattvic. So this Sattvicness, this Rajak Sattvic, and this Tatness. So this, when you come to that state where the witnesser is not and also, what is a witnesser doing? No? What does a witness mean? The witness is not right. When you go and witness a document, you're not the writer of the document. You're just a witnesser, that you saw it. So the doer, the experiencer is what is called the bhogata. And the looker, without any involvement of that experience of the bhogata, is called the sakshi. That state of sakshiness is the state of witnessing. When it is pure witnessing, all that exists, it's like you being awake while fully asleep. Then you've transcended all states and you become the pure consciousness that exists, what is called Tat Sat or Sat.
What a mind twister that was, Rajiji.
Sorry?
What a mind twister that was. I mean, there is so many more questions that are coming into my head. And one of the first things I think which all of us would want to know is, do the Upanishads tell you how to reach that state or transcend that state? So here, I think before I think we need to request you for another session on telling us how can we achieve that state. And there are going to be a whole line of questions which I request the audience to put in as well, for our next session. So I'm going to request you to come back again with explaining to us as to how can we experience what you've experienced.
It's very simple. All you got to do is to sit quiet and experience it, because you are the experience, and it is you who's also the witnesser of that experience.
Right.
It's just a thought. The whole world is a thought. That's what the Advaita philosophies talk about, or the Vashishta Advaita talks about. It's just you have to shift your mind. Basically, it's like, mind is like a child. If the child is playing something, you want to divert it. Say, okay, here, you forget this, little boy. Here, I got a popsicle for you. So suddenly his mind is shifted. It's that easy. But because we are so engrossed in the outward worldly appearance that we forget That is the nature of the ego. That is the nature of what is called the outward looking or the waking state. It has two portions to it. One is it looks out, looking out. That's how you're seeing it. So that is one part. The other part is it veils, it hides the inside one. And it's not that it happens, they're like twin brothers, happen simultaneously. Now, all you've got to do is to say, hey, that is the one that I'm looking out. But it's I who's looking out, but I can look within too. So then this one goes and this stays back.
Okay.
That is what, see, to understand the Upanishads, you have to first understand the Vedas. Because till such time you don't understand what are the Vedas. It's trying to understand the statement of Einstein, E equal to mc square. Everybody, oh yes, everybody, it's theory of relativity. But how have you arrived at a theory of relativity is the knowledge that Einstein had. Anybody can talk to me. You know what is theory? I say, yes, I know it's E equal to mc square. Nothing, I just repeated. But do I know it? No. I've heard it, but I don't know how it actually became. So to know that statement or the thundering declarations of those rishis, you first have to have a preparation. You have to be, there has, what they call as, there has to be an entitlement. There has to be a yogata. There has to be, you have to be entitled to read it, to understand it. There is an entitlement. You may be competent, but you're not entitled. So to get that entitlement, there's a prerequisite. You have to go for an exam. You may be competent to write an exam, but are you entitled to sit there for the exam? That is what is the prerequisite to understanding those great statements, those thundering declarations of the rishis in one word, in one vak, in one line. I mean, Upanishads are only 12 verses, 18 verses. They tell you about the whole world, the whole Brahman. So first you have to understand, how did these rishis get it? So you have to understand the Vedas. From the Vedas, there has to be an entitlement, or what is called, they call it the adhikari. Who is authorized? Kiska adhikar hai to be able to understand these. So these Upanishads, this Vedanta, doesn't mean it's end of the Vedas. It means it's a sar of the Vedas. It's a juice of the Vedas. It's a concentrate of the Vedas, which is reflecting on that one Brahman that those rishis saw before its creation. And how those rishis, with so much of variety of worldly appearance, of so many species of grass, of color, of air, of fire, of water, earth, they were able to see the sukshmata of it and the Brahman in it. It's very easy to say, Rishi said, when the Rishi prayed, he prayed for everybody, he never prayed for himself. What a great Rishis they are. Incomparable ones. They never said, give us. They said, give me. They said, give us. Look at the Gayatri Mantra. Yuna, to us, give us. Rishi Vishwavidya, give me. I worship you, so give everyone. How they went into the sukshmata of the earth, the solid earth that you talk about. How do they get that consciousness in it? How does a consciousness come down from that Brahman to becoming matter? MC E is equal to MC square. So the matter also becomes energy by speed. But they understood the speed. They understood the air. They understood the waves. They understood that air is just not air, it's prana. They understood that air. So when they talk about air, they say, oh, there are 7 kinds of air. And within those 7 kinds of air, there are the up airs. There are 7 different kinds of air within each air. And all that has made one breath that come in as prana, which has given you life. So prana is just not, you can't define prana. It's not just I'm breathing in. Prana is that energy, that consciousness that brings life into you, into a solid nothing mass, makes it alive. Just an air. No, there's more to that air. They understood that sukshmata of that air. And then how that air goes into the body and becomes the panch pran, and then panch pran also another panch up pran becoming the 10 prans. And how that pran getting that breath, getting that fire inside you, which is retained at 98.4 degrees for you to survive. How that fire then that burns up, that fire in you, which is the cosmic fire in your stomach. How that fire becomes speech. How that fire becomes the vitality, the strength in your body. How does this consciousness descending down from Brahman to space, to air, to the sukshmata, to fire, to water, and then to earth. And these are represented within the body. They say, Yat pinde tad brahmande. That means they knew the Brahmand as also the same one consisting as this human being. So how did that consciousness filter down or get solidified and come down in the human body in a mass, in a macro level? It came down and consolidified on earth. In a micro level, it came down and consolidified on earth within the spine, which is where you have the earth principle in your chakra. And how did that great consciousness come and reside and became a sleeping one in your kundalini, which all of us are trying to raise? And we talk, oh, let's raise the kundalini. Let's raise the kundalini. Oh, what kundalini? It's the same consciousness. Because till time it does not arise, you don't get up. Because it puts you down. The prana and the apan control it. They understood the beauty of that consciousness within the human body. Those rishis understood the beauty of that consciousness on earth. We talk about earth as nothing as earth. See the consciousness in earth. Everything is born from this Mother Earth. If you think quietly, as the rishis did, and concentrate, you'll see, oh, Divine Mother, you are the one who's produced us all. Janani. You are the Palanhar. You provide us food. And you absorb all our sins. You all leave it here. Where that this consciousness from this earth comes a little sapling and gives you fruit. From here comes that human being. From here comes the color of grass from let's say space or light or whatever it is. I'm not getting into that. But who's doing it? That consciousness that comes and gets solidified into earth. Dark matter. Scientists talked about dark matter. What is that dark matter? The Shivalingam that you see, that the dark representing the consciousness in the darkest form of matter. It's crazy.
But how do you travel on this journey of self-realization from the outside to within?
It's like saying, how do you become a PhD from where? You have to study. It's just not studying. You have to decipher it. Intellection, which is called buddhi. So you have to decipher the mind, the body, the soul, the intellect, and then you say, oh, that is what the Upanishads are telling you about. Hey, listen, don't be fooled. I am the one that I am. The rest is only is a conditioning that not I, but you are being conditioned with. I am pure. I'm not doing anything. You're diving, you're jumping, but I'm watching. And I'm being dragged. Doesn't matter. I don't need to be liberated. I am liberated. Why should I look for liberation? You are the guy who's to be liberated. The guy who's jumping. And when I know that you're jumping, that you're nobody, I don't care. So that state, when that jumping jack, that's what the great Rishi Vashishji talks about. He says, oh, Ram, this mind is that jumping jack, is that jumping monkey. This one is that crow who eats every dirt. There's that vicious snake. This is that sensuous elephant. This is that diseased plant or tree. Shun it. And then, of course, there are so many stories in Upanishads, Raja Janak and the Ashtabardha, and all this. Where they say, what is the true state? Whether the dreaming state is the true one, or the dream or the waking state is the true one. So both are true. Ashtabardha tells Raja Janak, both are true. How can both be true? So you tell me when you are awake, do you think the dream is true? So no. So then you agree that the waking state is true. But when you're dreaming, do you think that this is true? It's no. So both are true and both are untrue. So both are what is called as non-apprehension states.
Right.
That realization of that is transcending the three states into the state, which is the fourth side, which is called Tur, the fourth one. But
So is Turya the final state?
Actually, you're going too far. Okay. No, it isn't, but it's a beginning. The other states are, we talk about the 7 states, 7 levels of consciousness. So Turya is one level of the consciousness, which is overcome these 3 parts or these 3 conditions. But that state is the beginning, is a platform of the other states. And the other state is what we call as Sat Chit Anandam. Now in the Sat Chit Anandam, it's actually the reverse. You're coming from Sat Chit Anandam and then to Tur. Or you can say Tur Anandam. Tur Chit and Tur Satyam or Sat.
Is that called the supreme state, Turya Sat?
Yes. But when you are in Sat, is a part. All these states beyond are also Turya. But when you're upper state, let's say you're in Sat, then Sat doesn't mean it doesn't mean Satya. It means Sat. Sat means to exist. And Tat Sat. Tat Sat means that exists. Hari Om Tat Sat. What does it mean? Hari. What does Hari mean? Hari. Hari means Hriday. Hari, to be joyous. That's why it's called Hriday. The Dayavan, joyousness. The great one, the great joyous one, the great generously joyous one is Hriday. Hari. So what do you say? Hari Om Tat Sat. So that state, Hari, which is also the Om. The Om, the O, and Ma. I'm not going to sit down and describe Om, but Om is what is called the Amatra. Amatra means Matra means Matra is a measure. Amatra is what is not the measure, is a continuous one. So he says, who understands this continuous one? This continuous dream. And is in it is the Brahman. Very simple.
Right.
So that level of consciousness, they say that the rishis or the wise or the sages say even this waking state is a dream state. So what you call as waking, so Rishi Vashishji defines it as 7 different stages of jagratness or awareness. Another state is called Jagrat Swapnas. That is the waking state, which is also the dreaming state. Very simple. You're sitting here and you're dreaming, oh, I'm dreaming of London. Then when we went to Switzerland, we went to that cute little quaint place in the Alps. What lovely weather it was. What nice food it was. So what has started? You started to dream while waking. So this is the mind. The mind is always dreaming, Anjali, always dreaming, remember.
Right.
It dreams of what? The mind is the past. It doesn't know. What does it know? Its knowledge is only of the past. The future it is, and it wants to see the future. So it is lost within the present state. It has lost itself in the past, which doesn't exist. And it's lost itself in the future, which hasn't come. So the pure present is nothing sandwiched between two unrealities. Both dreaming state. waking, dreaming state.
Deep. Deep. Oh, this was like really deep.
Questions?
I think
Any questions that you might have?
there is one question here by Roma saying, is the dark matter black hole with the most gravitational pull, is that Shakti or Kali Mata?
You see, there are two things. There is dark matter and there's dark energy. The scientists call dark matter and dark energy. Dark matter is also the same consciousness as that unseen matter, that light matter. But dark matter is also not seen. But it's just, am I right? That's what the scientists say. And it is greater than space. It should be true. It has to be true. I could prove it to you. Maybe some other day you want to. Now I can prove it to you right now. That, so the Purusha is that Shiva in that most auspicious state, which is called Sadashiv. And also called Mahakal, Rudra. The consciousness, the conscious energy going out from Shiva, of their pure consciousness, projecting, is Kal Ratri or Mahakali. So then, of course, the rishis had their visions and they said, what does he look like? What does she look like? How tall she is? What kind of feature she has? So those are, don't want to get into that. Their visions, which were thought of, because all the gods that we see, none of them exist in that form. It's a form that the rishis, in their meditation, their consciousness, in their deep meditation, were able to draw out the nad, the sound, and then decipher those akshas and make a mantra out of it. From the same one, they could decipher the different airs. They could decipher the seven chand, and then make it the Gayatri chand and the Tishtup, Anushtup, Jagati. So all the different chands they could make, combine the words. Imagine the kind of knowledge, vision they had. So though that is the knowledge, let's not get into, कि उन्होंने तो कहा था ये ऐसा लगता है रुद्र ये है और मारुत ये है और विश्वदेवास are this, Adityas are so and so, Vasus are so and so, Rudras are so and so, there's Prajapati, there is Indra, let's forget all that. But they were able to see in their meditative consciousness the existence of, through the tan matras, of what you can't see. And then we all want to understand the gist of it, of how all this multiplicity became unity in one in the Upanishads. Is a divine knowledge. Divine knowledge needs divine thinking. It needs divine work. Start. You don't go nowhere till such time you don't get up and walk. You can't go to your store till such time don't go down the lift, crank up your engine of your car and drive. Just thinking, that we groceries, yeah, okay, we got call service, home delivery, ring the bell, it's you. Well, but you still have to get up and pay for it. So start now. You have to start somewhere, sometime. Start now. It's never too late. If you don't start, then it's late.
Gee, I think this was a very, very deep session, Rajiji. So much to think about, so much to decipher, so much to do. And I think we should call it a night. Yeah. And dear audience, if there are any questions, you could write to us at answers.hingorisutras@gmail.com. And I'm sure Rajiji would be very happy to answer them. Till then, what we do recommend is that this session would be on YouTube as well as on Facebook. Do listen to it once again. I think it needs a couple of hearings before we can really move into another session, a deeper session, to understand a lot more of what it is to experience or to transcend the three states. Yeah. So please do write to us at answers.hingorisutras@gmail.com if you need any clarifications. And Rajiji, thank you so very much for so patiently explaining it to us in such depth and detail. Forever grateful for you coming and sharing your knowledge and experience with us.
See, I have no knowledge, Anjali. Must understand, knowledge is all borrowed. Like speech is all imitation. Which knowledge? Whose knowledge? It's the knowledge of those divine ones. It's the knowledge of my guru. I didn't have it. It's his. You feel like famous statement of Einstein. He said, somebody went up, he says, you're a master, you've got this, a Nobel Prize, and so much of. He says, I feel like a boy standing on the ocean shore with a few pebbles and a few shells in my hand, and the whole ocean is yet to be discovered. So that infinite one has always an infinite knowledge, which is impossible to get. But whatever my guru has granted, it's always available for his followers, for his disciples, for his Shraddhalus. There's a little seva I can do.
Thank you, Rajiji. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Shubhratri. Sayonara.